Thank you for being with us. Today, I'm here to discuss the homicide that occurred last night in the 1200 block of Lakeshore Avenue. Last night around 9 o'clock, the Oakland Police Department was contacted and advised of a shooting that had just occurred in the 1200 block of Lakeshore Avenue. Upon arrival, officers arrived to the scene in about 4 minutes and made contact with a victim that was suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was transported to a local hospital where unfortunately he succumbed to his injuries. The department is not releasing the name of the individual at this point, pending notification of next of kin. What we believe occurred so far, and we're early in investigation, is that this appears to be connected to a robbery attempt, if you would. It appears that the victim was the victim of a robbery, and ultimately it resulted in a shooting. We are on the ground right now, currently continuing our investigation. We are looking for video or any evidence that might help us identify those responsible for this heinous crime. Again, we understand that this area has been impacted by homicides in the last 6 months. This is the third homicide. I will say the other 2 homicides have led to an arrest. And so we, will, in this case, relentlessly follow up like we've done in those other cases. But again, it still is troubling that we respond again to this area to violence. And so we have made contact with our council member. We are reaching out to community members. We'll be attending a community meeting to have a discussion next week regarding the violence and our response to the violence. We'll be increasing our presence in the area, hopefully to reduce violence. This represents the 31st homicide in the city of Oakland, compared to 36 homicides last year at the same time. That's about a 14% decrease in overall homicides. We're also seeing a 22% decrease in overall shootings this year in the city of Oakland, as well as a 19% decrease in robberies. So while we are making some strides towards making our community a bit safer, we still see these isolated events happening that obviously cause tremendous fear in our community, and we're working to address it. And so with that, I'll take any questions.
Again, we ask that you use the raise your hand feature, and we're discussing the topic of the 1200 Lakeshore Avenue. And George, I see your hand up. You go first, please, sir. George, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Please unmute.
Sorry about that. George Kelly, East Bay Times. Figured I would ask are there any plans to station an officer at the intersection of Lakeshore and say Foothill to keep watch on the intersection, or station any officers there along that stretch of Lakeshore, similar to the gated traffic cones, police car monitoring situation that would occasionally happen on weekends?
Yeah, we'll do a couple of different strategies to increase our presence in that area. Previously we have had extra patrols in that area to reduce the amount of traffic, the other criminal activity that is afoot over in that area as well. And so we'll try a couple of different things. You'll see officers driving through the area. You'll see officers parking in the area. You'll see some walking in the area, and you will see some positioned vehicles where officers will be in the area. So we'll use a series of different things to increase our presence in the area.
Next question, Dan.
Yeah, the neighbors say that the police have been doing what they can, but that OPD is so short-staffed that that this area, since they put in the no parking, it is not enforced. It has become central for partying overnight, and that there are just not enough OPD officers to come over for reports of a noise call, and you can only get out there once things go cross the line. Is there any talk of, do you agree that there are just not enough officers to properly put an end to this partying, which oftentimes leads to shooting? And is there any talk about getting rid of that overnight parking restriction, which is allowing a full area for people to come up and start getting together?
Yeah, I think it obviously continues to be a resource issue. I think we don't obviously have the resources to dedicate to that area around the clock. Obviously, we're dealing with multiple challenges throughout the city. And so as we address all of the issues that we have in the city of Oakland, it makes it challenging for us to have a presence there all the time. I do think that we can dedicate resources there to have a consistent presence, which we've done in the past. But again, obviously, we're challenged with resources as we are now at a low of 652 officers. So we'll continue to, prioritize the locations where we assign resources. And this is one area that has been a priority and will continue to be a priority moving forward. We also will work with our other city agencies to see if there's any assistance that they can provide, particularly around the parking issues. So I do think we have reached out and have used a collaborative approach in the past, and we'll continue to lean on other city agencies to assist us in the area.
Residents think lifting those parking restrictions to allow residents to park there could solve the problem because there would be nowhere for out-of-area partiers to come. Is that something you might help them push for?
I mean, I'm in full support of, obviously we'll bring that forth to our council member, make sure that she's aware of some of the community's concerns about the overnight parking. But I do think anything that could reduce the amount of traffic in that area would be helpful. And so if that's something that we believe will reduce, traffic in that area, then and be helpful, we definitely are supportive. I will say that, simply removing signs or changing rules doesn't necessarily help if there's nobody to enforce them. So I think it's important that we have a presence there when we have the resources available to ensure whatever the policies are, or whatever the parking restrictions are, that there's somebody there to have a presence and make contact with people to make sure they're not violating those policies.
Thank you. Again, we're using a raise your hand feature. So if you have a question, please use that. And we're limited to the conversation we're talking at right now. Give you one more opportunity. Not seeing any additional hands, Chief, I will let you close this out, sir.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we have to have any conversation about another violent crime happening in this particular area. We understand how this impacts that community. We understand how the people in that community who live there, the residents, how they feel. They've expressed that to me. I've had the opportunity to meet with them and have a discussion about safety in their community. And they've brought forth several different recommendations about things that we can do. And several of those things we have implemented. But again, we find ourselves, unfortunately, someone losing their life to a senseless violent crime again. We will continue to do our best to address violence in that area. We will continue to do our best to relentlessly follow up on all leads leading to the person responsible for this crime. And we will do our best to bring them to justice. Thank you all for being here.